Hey everyone, welcome to Saturday Night Popcorn. This is Jason.
And this is Kai, and we have another great discussion for you today. The movie of the day is The Loveless, not Loveless from 2017. This is The Loveless from 1981. I was confused. Jason might not have been confused, but just want to give everyone a heads up and also a spoiler warning. 1981 is a while ago, but you might not have seen it. So, yeah.
It ends with a bang. But
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. I did type in like the Loveless into
Mhm.
the search bar on my TV and stuff, and it did come up with this one, and then it came up with the
The
other
other
one
one.
that you said, I
Yeah.
think. And I was like, I don't remember that movie poster, so I just chose this one, and I kind of banked on whether or not that was going to be
As
correct.
long as you watch the movie, as long as you watch the movie with Willem Dafoe, you're good.
Willem
Willem.
Dafoe. I was
When I
telling
was a kid,
Patty,
I thought it was William.
me too. I was like, I've
Yeah,
never met anyone in real life that is called Willem.
I think that's very British.
Yeah,
There's this
maybe.
YouTube guy I used to watch, and his name was Willem, and I'm like, what?
Is that like the proper way to spell William, or like the or like
I
no?
guess it's with an
They have people
E.
called William over there. I
Yeah.
don't know, but
Mm.
we digress. but uh, but all right. So our theme for this month was basically the directorial debuts of directors that kind of went on to do some like pretty prominent movies. And
Mhm.
this last one for this month is Catherine Bigelow, who is known for. I only watched the Hurt Locker from her filmography, but you watched Zero
I've
Dark 30,
seen Zero Dark 30 and The Hurt Locker.
the Hurt Locker. But
Both
there's some
very
other films.
sad.
Yeah, the intense movies
Yeah.
that she's made. This one is a co-direction.
Yeah.
But I did notice it was written and directed by both Catherine Bigelow and then this other person, Monty Montgomery.
Hmm.
So, um, so yeah, it was written and directed by them. Um, what would you think about this movie?
So I enjoyed the cinematography was really good. I'll start with that. I enjoyed the cinematography. There was a lot of close-ups of random items,
Yeah.
but it played into the story like, oh, they're listening to the radio. Here's a close-up of the radio.
Mm.
It felt I never went to film school, but I'm still gonna say this felt very like film school-ish, early film, like trying to figure things out. Um, at least some of the shots. It was pretty. Like I thought it was shot very well, but the to kind of get into my dislike, the the lack of dialogue didn't benefit the movie. It was
Right?
just like long spans of just like silence. You know, like okay, yeah, something's coming up, and then nothing.
Yeah. I get that too. Where I was like, I saw that it was written and directed by them, and I wrote a note where it's like, this script must have been super easy to write. So,
Just 2 pages, just like here you go.
yeah, which is like no, like none of us probably you and I can ever write a movie. I don't know, maybe in the future, but this one, yeah, the dialogue is very there's like
Minimal.
just like there are people. I think what I wrote, they're people of uh of little words, and I
Hmm.
think they're like a gang and stuff, and they're like a motorcycle gang, but they're into racing their motorcycles, and so they're rough and tough, and and they don't really provide information to people, like extra information.
Yeah,
So I think that kind of plays into the story of them. That like I'm mysterious and stuff.
mysterious.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I guess that makes sense. But yeah, there's a lot of times where it's like am I waiting for something? Am I
Yeah.
waiting for some big thing? And Willem just says, okay, or like I don't know.
The funniest, the first thing that caught my eye and the funniest thing to me was the outfit or his outfit in the very beginning because it reminded me of this famous photographer Robert Mapplethorpe. Don't If you're at work watching this or listening to this, don't look up Robert Mapplethorpe unless you put like Robert Mapplethorpe flowers Because anything else from him, you're gonna be like, I should not have looked this up at work.
Your work is gonna call you.
Yeah, like, hey, what are you doing? But that was the first thing, like looking at all the leather and all of that. I was like, is this referencing Robert Mapplethorpe? Which was cool, but also like, this is a lot of leather. Um, yeah, there was something else, and I totally blanked on what it was.
I agree with the cinematography. I in the first like half an hour, I enjoyed like the opening shot is pretty nice where
Hmm.
it's like a kind of like a long take of him kind of or like the camera's coming down, he's setting up his motorcycle. It looks like he's actually like like he's turning on the
Like, what?
motorcycle, but like he doesn't turn it on the first crank, and so then he turns it on the second one. He's turning on all the lights, so he's like doing all the things, and then he kind of rides off, and it's like a long shot of him riding
Right
down the
now.
road. And there's another one where it's like he kind of has that like that time with that woman that's on the side of the road with the flat tire,
Hmm.
where it's like over the door. And Patty immediately was like, "Oh, I really like that." Where it's like he kind of goes and you see him, he turns around and stuff. And I can only imagine how many times he fell over, probably. But like, but it's a long shot. Maybe I don't know. Maybe you didn't have the ability to like cut and have multiple shots of that, so
Hmm.
then you have to like it is probably one of the first like it is kind of like what plays into oh here's your first film or here's like a school film because
Yeah,
you're only gonna have one shot.
one setup. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it's like, all right, well, like yeah, have them do everything. It adds
Hmm.
to the story and stuff. But then there was other ones where like you can tell either someone's hanging off the side of a car or whatever because when they're filming him, like
Shaky.
yeah, it's like oh shit. I was like, telling Patty, I was like, you know, someone's there and like trying their hardest to like hold it straight. But there is a lot to be desired, and the story. I have no clue what's the reasoning for this movie. Um,
The not to cut you off. That scene, so the sex scene was super creepy to me. Like for them just to,
the like in the motel.
yeah, like they have a lot of sex scenes in movies now, but that one was just like, oh gosh, that was, and there wasn't even a lot that happened, but there's something about that one that seemed really crude. And it's like, oh, um, and the sex scene was rough, and I don't know why I'm blanking today. Yeah, this movie was just not it.
I don't know. It for me once it ended, I was like, all right, well, like they're the whole story is basically like these group of bikers, which is Willem's
I
one of
remember.
them, and they're riding to Daytona, right? Because
Hmm.
it's like in the advent of NASCAR, so like NASCAR used to race on the beaches of Daytona when that's how the Daytona 500 kind of happened, where it's like everyone get on the beach and they showed in the middle of the movie where like it's kind of wild where it's like they're
Yeah.
going down the beach like crazy fast and some of them will crash. But I think they would also allow motorcycles to show up. And so then people will show up with motorcycles and kind of race also. And this is what their plan of action is. And so that's sort of the motivator, but I guess the the conflict of the story is or like the reasoning why they kind of stop off at this small town is basically one of their motorcycles needs to be repaired,
Hmm.
and so they have to interact with these town
Locals.
people,
Yeah.
the locals and stuff, and they have some pretty wild lives. I was like, when it gets to that bar scene, and she's kind of like doing like a strip tease and everything. I was telling Pat, I was
Yeah.
like, this town is wild.
I gotta have a okay. Now I kind of remember where what I wanted to say. The Corvette, the red Corvette.
uh,
The lady pulls up in that red Corvette, but then
yeah,
he becomes the main driver. But then when her dad or whoever that older guy is busts into the hotel room or shoots the Corvette. First off, shoots the Corvette, destroys it, and then busts into the hotel room and drives off in a different car. Wasn't if that's her dad? Isn't that his Corvette? And he just didn't care about it, or did I miss something?
well, he gave it to her
Okay,
after her mother
pass or left.
passed. yeah, or
Divorce or something.
no, well, the mother did the same action. YouTube doesn't like the word, or
Gotcha.
any platforms don't like the word itself. But the mother did exactly what the daughter did at the end of the movie, and
Oh, okay,
so,
okay, okay.
but it was after the father kind of was progressively abusing the mother and stuff.
Yeah.
And Patty was like, "Oh, did you catch that? Like, it seemed like because like in the motel scene when he like drags her away."
Mm,
She was like, she says the line. I think Willem kind of like says it to himself or like hears it again, where she says that, oh, he just does what you've done to me like hundreds of times. And
I do remember
so
that.
so we're assuming that the
The
father's also
father.
abusing her, so
Yeah.
which kind of like is the turn. But I think, yeah, once but also he shoots out the tire, so he's like, if he
Yeah.
really wants to drive away with it, I don't know
He
how he's gonna
couldn't.
try to.
But I'm just saying, like that. I'm guessing that's an expensive car, especially back then. You're just gonna
Oh
be like,
yeah.
I don't need
Yeah.
it anymore.
Well, he's like their oil guy, which is like also like I guess back then, or like I'm trying to also like the reasoning for these characters. Like he's like
Mm-hmm.
the oil guy, but then there was like no need to like show like he goes to like the guy said the black individual with his sons and stuff like playing around and he yells at
That
him.
was
It's like there's no
unnecessary.
point of that,
Yeah.
just or either just to show that he's also racist and like and or like the town is still racist and stuff.
I thought
So
that
I'm
was
like,
super weird.
yeah, and I'm like, I'm trying to figure out like what's the like. I guess like they want to build some backstory, some character building with these
Yeah.
other individuals, but it just kind of doesn't make sense. Where it's like, all right, what was the point of showing them and stuff? And
It
he's like
felt
this tough guy
rushed.
too.
Yeah, it felt rushed.
Mm-hmm.
Like instead of like fully building out the characters and their backstories, it was just like, okay, here's a story. Now we're gonna add in the love interest. The love interest has a bad upbringing. Her father comes and rips her out of here. Let's throw in some black people in this area, and then
Yeah, it's
all hell
almost
breaks
like
loose at the end.
the black people, like including the black people, is like more just to remind you that like it was racist back then. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, thanks. Like, but it was random. And then like Willem buying the beer, he's like, I'm not as white as you think. It's like he was super white.
What? It's like, sir, your name is Willem. Come
Yeah.
on.
But the whole ending of the movie is is where it kind of like the guy then somehow decides that he's gonna convince his brother to like kill them and that like no one will miss them because like they're like a bunch of like ragtag people and like no one they don't have families and stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know how that escalates to where it's like, all right, now we're gonna kill them, all of them too,
Yes.
and then nothing's gonna happen. But then it just turns out that the daughter comes back and kills the dad,
Hmm.
and then does her ending too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, but then also
But
then
he
you have like the
watched
whole
that
like,
whole thing,
yeah,
that
Willem
which threw
watches the
me
whole
off.
thing, and I'm like, all right,
Yeah.
well, like he's not the if
He's
if
not really a
someone
love
believes that
interest.
he's the hero or
Yeah,
whatever,
he's
he's
not.
not like.
Yeah, no. Because he watched, it was so slow too. Like for her to
Yeah,
do what she ended up doing, you're just like, okay,
she's like
no,
you
you're not
just
gonna do
slapped
it. You're not gonna do it. And
the
he didn't even run out there to save her. Like,
nothing,
no,
yeah.
I love you.
And he's
Just
like,
like,
all right,
I'll watch. Like,
she decided this.
yeah,
And then they
you're
drive
over all
off,
this.
and
Yeah,
then supposedly going off to Daytona and stuff, and all that. But it is
yeah.
like one of those like movies where it's like I guess like the story we've seen other movies. And some of them are horror movies where like you break down in this small town, like almost like the
Well,
Texas Chainsaw
yeah.
Massacre,
I was
like
about to say
that.
that we watched
Yeah,
that nonsense.
that happens, but then there's other times where it's like you break down a small town, almost like if you think about it, what's that animated car movie, Cars, where
Cars.
like he
Oh,
breaks
and the
down in
Motor
a small
City.
town and then
Yeah,
he has to like like make relationships with all the people
with the
around the
locals.
place. He starts
Yeah.
out. I kind of want to watch that movie
But that was a good way
tonight.
to do it though,
Yeah,
because
I
like
think
you break
so.
down and then you start interacting, and it's like, okay, now we have a whole backstory of what this town is and how important it used to be. This movie didn't give that. It was just like, hey, we're going from town to town to get to Daytona, and some wild things went down.
It's just to remind you that these guys are douchebags and stuff. It's like
Yeah.
that, like the entire time they're douchebags. But
I was waiting for a musical number, honestly.
they
I was waiting for people
did
to
look
start singing.
like the people from Greece. What do they call
Yeah.
them? But I want to kind of get into like to like possibly like think about like, all right, more of like the movie itself.
Mm-hmm.
The This is co-directed by Catherine Bigelow and Monty Montgomery.
Mm-hmm.
What's your thoughts on like how, what do you think that aspect is, like co-directing a movie?
I think it's, you both have ideas that you present, and then you figure out ways to implement them so that you have a full story, or you hope to have a full story. Because it's difficult for one person to have all of the ideas. So I think a lot of people, because you hear about it, you'll hear about people like when TV shows, movies, it's like one person's name is on it, like written and directed by Quentin Tarantino, Ryan Johnson, whatever. But then you kind of pull back from that and you hear about like, oh, well, he had that person had the big idea and had at least a baseline script, but then all of these other writers were able to assist with, hey, let's include this in the story, or that doesn't really work. So I think a lot of films and TV shows have co-writers, co-directors, but they just don't get that top billing like this one had. And I think they may have done a co-director listing because these both were up and coming, or maybe one of them had a bigger name at the time than the other.
To kind of like lift up the other name too.
Mm-hmm.
And I
At least
wonder
that's my
if
thought.
like you kind of wonder if like it was like one of them was the director, but then somehow down the road they were like, I think this is, we're doing this together, like
Yeah,
at the same level. And so it's like like who agrees on that? Like,
I think it may
is
be
it the
something
director?
they
Like, all
do.
right,
Yeah.
like I'll give you like half the credit, I guess. It's like, or I give you the co-director, because we know like every movie has like assistant director, second
Mm-hmm.
assistant director, and stuff, and so they're listed in the credits.
Yeah, in the
But
credits, but
it,
not in like the
yeah,
beginning,
it's
like right in
different
your face.
to, I don't know. Actually, we should look back and see like, all right, like how many movies are co-directed, like where they
Yep.
list both of them. That'd be kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And then what is it like, what is like the best co-directed movie too, where it's like
Mm-hmm.
you would believe having two minds would be
You'd make
way
something
better,
great.
right?
Yeah.
Would be better to bounce off ideas, but I wonder if that sometimes can be like a deficit to people, where it's like,
Yeah.
this
It
is
might be a
this is very
hindrance
difficult. Yeah.
because you both have different ideas and different views on things, or like the way you want something to look. So that may be difficult. So maybe at times it's like, oh yeah, we're on the same page here, and then other times it's like, what are you thinking? I want it to look this way.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, if you find the right partner, it may work, but I don't think it works in all cases.
Yeah. And also directors are kind of like, I'm assuming that they have high egos, they're very into themselves and stuff, and it's like, I need to do it the way I want to do it.
Or the way I
So
envision it in my head.
yeah, it'd be very hard to share that. But in terms of what do you end up like rating this movie?
I didn't put one on Letterbox yet, but I don't know, man. I think like maybe a one, 1.5. Like it wasn't, the cinematography is what helped it for me. Like the overall story. Like I like movies with minimal dialogue, but this one was like very, very, very little. And but it was shot well. Like I
Mm.
enjoy the way it was shot. So yeah, 1.5.
The color
One and a half,
tones and
two.
stuff.
1.5, two.
Yeah, like the whole like color of it. It's like,
It
it's
was
not like,
beautiful.
yeah, it's not very muted, but it
Mm-hmm.
shows like this is what a town would look like at like dusk,
Get that
or
subtlety, yeah.
whatever. Yeah,
Especially for back then too.
yeah, right. And so, and then also getting those shots where it's like you would believe it's difficult with one camera, where like
Mm-hmm.
you can tell he's probably going down up and down the street on his motorcycle multiple times
Yeah.
for them to get that shot. Especially the shot where he's like kind of coming towards them, but then also I'm assuming they turned around
cut
or
it.
or like they had it again. Or like, all right, like come towards us again, but we're gonna be facing the other way, so then
Yeah.
we can get you going away. So yeah, I kind of I think you hit it up. I gave it a 1.5. I was like kind of like, all right, like maybe a 2, but then it's like the
Yeah.
story was like, I was like, I don't know what is going on. Um, so my confusion of the why this movie was even made, like what was the inspiration and all that stuff, and like what was the reasoning for it?
Hmm.
If it was just a kind of like, hey, we have this kind of like script, it's very minimal, but we have this up and coming actor Willem Dafoe and stuff, um, and ready to go and stuff, and like let's just get it. Then so be it. It was 1.5. It was an hour and a half, or like less than an
Just
hour and a
under,
half.
yeah, not even a full
Yeah.
hour and a half.
So it's not
It's
that
a quick
bad.
watch. Yeah.
Yeah. So in terms of recommending it, if you want to see where Willem came from and see an early work of Willem Dafoe and see how young he is and stuff, and like and all that, then
And if
I
you
would
like
say,
leather too,
yeah, if you like leather,
if
if
you
you
like
like a
leather.
motorcycle gang type of movie. But
Oh, that's what I was gonna say.
yeah.
I was watching freaking Mayans. I was watching Mayans
Oh.
MC, and then I was like, "Oh, I gotta watch this movie." So I put on that, and I'm like, "Dude, I just watched Mayans. Mayans is super good." Like, and then I'm watching Loveless. This no, these don't work together.
Well, this is how you know sometimes acting is very pretending.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that was
But
not the right thing to do.
would you recommend? I would not recommend it, and I would not buy it. Just to answer those two questions. If you want to
Yeah,
watch something that's early on into Willem Dafoe's, or see where Catherine Bigelow came from, I think that's the whole reasoning for this theme that we have for this month, is like where
yeah,
people come from. And there's no gripe on like, if people have the ability to make a film, like we see what Catherine Bigelow does now,
hmm,
and so there was that, and you see the little bits of it
yeah.
in this movie and stuff, and so I think that's like the whole reasoning behind this theme for the
Like the directing was great. It was just the story that was bad.
month. But
So I would not. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend it or buy it either. So
all right.
it is what it is. They can't all be
I know,
masterpieces.
yeah, no matter what, it's like, hey, there's a lot of movies out there, and they all can't be
Hmm.
good.
Exactly.
All right,
Just
guy, you
check
want
out
to take us
Tubi.
out?
Yeah. Thanks. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Saturday Night Popcorn. I'm Kai.
And I'm Jason, and we'll be back next week for another one.